Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas, and today's date it's January 16th, 2010. It's Sunday and it's 2 p.m. I cut myself shaving if you're wondering what that is. I made a video on YouTube here about the shooter out there in Tucson. I talked about mental illness, schizophrenia or whatever, and I was expecting, I said in the video that I'm expecting that I'd get a lot of negative comments, and I was really surprised. I think about 300 people have watched it, and I don't think I've received any negative comments. That's really remarkable, really good. Shows, good thing about the YouTube viewers and about America. Well, not everybody American, but it shows. I was really surprised. I was expecting a lot of negative comments. I wanted to comment about James Earl Fuller. He is, I'm sure you probably heard about him by now. He's one of the survivors of the shooting. He was shot in the back and I think the leg, if I remember right. He's 62 or 63 years old. He's a disabled veteran. He served in the military and he's disabled. After the shooting, which was like 8 days ago, he was very upset, and he made a statement. It looks like Palin, Beck, I guess I should say, quote, it looks like Palin, Beck, Sharon Angle, and the rest got their first target, unquote. And the right wing blogs and people started attacking him. How dare him say that? Now, the president of the Tea Party for Tucson, Arizona, was contacted, I'm not sure if it was by the police department or by the sheriff's department, and said, hey, there's being threats made against you. People are really upset because of, this has been in the news, and 9-year-old girl being shot in the head, and just people are really upset. So please keep a low profile and don't go to any public events or anything, and just lay low for a little bit. So that's number two. Number three, ABC News decides to have a, what do they call it? Not a town hall, but they do these things sometimes when something like this happens. And they invited the victims of the shooting and other interested people to come to this little thing where everybody's going to, talk. So James Fuller, who was shot in the leg and back, he shows up for it. And the president of the Tea Party, who was told that people were really upset with him and maybe should lay low and avoid public events, he shows up for the event, which is, he's an American citizen. He has the right to freedom of speech and everything, but he shows up. So the event's going on, I think we may see it at some point. I'm not sure how much of this we'll see that happened, but the Tea Party president gets up and defends the Tea Party and says that, the right wing had nothing to do with it, and that an atmosphere of hate had nothing to do with it. There wasn't any atmosphere of, all this type of stuff, all the regular stuff. And that I'm sure he probably said too that the shooter was because that's what they're saying, is a liberal Democrat. That's what from the very beginning. That's what the right wing and blogs have been saying, that he's a liberal Democrat, the shooter. And so then the Tea Party president defends guns, and I don't have the exact text, but I'm sure it's the same. I'm sure it's the same thing. Probably, I'm sure he's saying that everybody should be armed and things like this wouldn't happen, and guns don't kill people, people kill people, and so forth, and that type of thing. Well, James Fuller, the guy who was shot in the leg and the back, and was there when all this happened and witnessed it and lived it, he gets up and he says to the Tea Party president, "You're dead." And the police immediately arrest Mr. Fuller for making a threat, and they book him and they take him to a psychiatric hospital for evaluation. Now, I blogged about that, and I said, that too bad the Tea Party president, didn't just stay at home, but he had every right to attend, had every right to speak. And I said, on the other hand, I said, Mr. Fuller should not have said what he said, "You're dead," but I can understand, the emotions and the trauma this guy has been through. I can understand him, being agitated and upset and doing something like that. And then I said, okay, the police, I understand they really didn't have much choice with what's happened. And with somebody who makes a threat, they just couldn't ignore it, because what if something were to happen? So they have to react now. And I said it was an unfortunate situation. Then the next day, I go to redstates.com, which is a very popular right-wing blog. I went to it, and now I can't find it on my blog. I'll put the links, but anyway, the Red States site, they attacked this victim who was shot and who was arrested and is in the psych hospital. They attack him. Oh, here it is. My thing. The title is "How the Right Saw that's different. How they saw the Tucson. That's Red States again. How they saw the memorial service. Red States. The title is "The Marxist Message Behind the Memorial," and they say that President Obama. There was a Marxist, he had an agenda, and just that's the way they saw things. But so I guess it's another entry that they made, and they attacked this guy that they got arrested, and they say that Mr. Fuller is a hardcore Democrat. He's a hardcore Democrat. I wonder if the FBI has been notified. The man is a hardcore Democrat. And then they quote what he said, that it looks like Palin, Beck, Sharon Angle, and the rest got their first target. And then they go ripping into, this guy viciously. That he's a dupe and he's been used by the left and the whole thing. They just tear into the guy. And so I commented on my blog about, hey, this guy has been traumatized a little bit here. But I just found, and I'm going to put the link to it for sure, I found it on Newsvine. I think that's it. I'll put the link to it. And it talks about the trauma that these people went through and how terrible it is, and how these people are going to suffer with this for the rest of their lives. And then they say that this is not unusual, that the Columbine situation and all of these things that happen like this that you don't realize, and then they give some examples of the the suffering that these people will do for the rest of their life. One of the psychiatrists or whatever says that some of these people will never be able to drive by a Safeway store again. They'll know where the Safeway stores are, and they'll just go down another street and won't go by it. So I'll put the link to that. I thought that was interesting. And in that article they mention, they say in there, in a disturbing quote, in a disturbing turn of events involving another shooting victim, J. Eric Fuller, 63, was arrested Saturday after allegedly making a threatening comment at an ABC News forum to which he'd been invited. Authorities said Fuller, a military veteran, would be involuntarily committed for mental health evaluation after confronting a local Tea Party official with the words, "You're dead." Then it goes on to say that psychiatrists and social workers will be working and counseling these patients and families for a long time. So I thought all that was pretty interesting. Let me give you, just to show you, I mean, I am very sympathetic to the right wing, and the blog site redstates.com is not at all. But I'm very sympathetic to this James Eric Fuller. I've never suffered any kind of trauma like that. Let me give you just a little from my, and I always do this. So far you haven't attacked me really for that. Let me just, a little personal thing. I worked as a hospital security officer for 30 years. The first hospital I worked at, St. Joseph Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri, there was 10 of us working in security. And out of the 10, we had 2 security officers shot. The first one was Dan Stagel. The second one, when the first security officer was shot, one guy sprayed mace in his eyes, another shot him. I came in the next morning and his blood was on the ground and his activity sheet was filled out to 9:15 p.m. or whatever. Right after that, they fired our director of security, and they didn't replace him for quite a while. And they replaced him with this guy who really did not have much experience as being he'd never been a security director. I don't know why they hired him, really. Seemed like a nice enough guy, but he really didn't have, but they hired him in. Well, it wasn't very long after that John Galegas, my friend, he'd been to my house, and I'd been to, my wife and I, him and his girlfriend had been to my house, and my wife and I had been to his house, his girlfriend's house. He was in the parking lot, and he confronted a gunman, and they both shot each other at the same time, and John dropped dead on the ground, and the other guy managed to jump a fence, and he didn't drop dead, but he collapsed, and the police got him. That happened on a Thursday night, and I came in Friday morning, and John's blood was there in the parking lot. And I think I blogged about I had some words with the hospital administrator when he pulled in, because when the first security officer was shot, I had told the hospital administrator in writing that you need to get a gate over here and you need to get bulletproof vest. They didn't get a gate over there, and they didn't get bulletproof vest. If they got the gate put in over there, the gunman would not have come through that open space, and if John had had a bulletproof vest on, he'd have been just fine. So I had that going on. So this is Friday. I come in and John's blood's in the parking lot, and his clothes are in a bag in the office ready to be picked up by the police, bloody clothes. His activity sheet's partially filled out. And the hospital director of security, he leaves early that day, which he'd never done before. This was a Friday. So Saturday comes around, Sunday comes around, and Monday morning I come in, and the director of security informs me that I left early Friday, and I went and got a job someplace else. It has nothing to do with John, being shot. Okay, now I hadn't been shot, and I wasn't there when the shooting took place or whatever, and I unloaded on this guy. I called him a chicken shit bastard, and I said, "You're responsible for John's death." Now, I was wrong. The guy wasn't a chicken shit bastard. He wasn't responsible for his death or whatever. I mean, that shows you what this type of thing does to people. So I think the chicken shit bastards in this case are right-wing people who are attacking this James Fuller. No, he should not have made a threat against somebody. But this guy has been through, this is sort of like when Bush was in office, and remember there was the mother of a soldier who was killed in Iraq, and she was out protesting. She went by Bush's home in Texas, down on the corner or whatever, with signs or whatever, and she just protested against Bush and the war. And the right wing called her everything that you could think of. They called her everything you could think of. They just constantly, how dare her, and just went, and I blogged about that, and I said, she's a gold star mother. She lost a son. A young son was killed, and I think if whatever she wants to do, you shouldn't say, a gold star mother lost a son in the military, serving in the military for his country, and they just called her, and forever until she stopped protesting. And she protested it a long time. I think a lot longer than she should have. But they just heaped all kind of, really vicious abuse on her. And I sort of think this is the same thing. No, John Fuller should not have made a threat. But this guy has been through a lot, and I'm going to put that link and read that article about the trauma that these people suffered and are going to suffer and are going to suffer for the rest of their lives. And thank you very much for watching.